All right, let's go. I always liked when a team really comes out flying. It's sign of a good coach, I think. Boston Bruins are 13-2. That's pretty good.
Yep, this is Sunday morning, so they won yesterday, beat Buffalo.
Winnipeg, 8-3, pretty good. New Jersey, did you like that 12-3? 12-3, that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, we were just watching that today. It was funny. At the beginning of the year, they lost the first couple of games, and the New Jersey Devil fans were going, fire Lindy rough, fire Lindy. And then yesterday they were going, sorry, Lindy. They've won 9 in a row.
They won 9 in a row. And he says, the funny thing is we didn't the coaches never heard it, and I never heard it.
Yeah.
I mean, would have felt good. The Islanders are 10-6, which is pretty good. And Vegas is 13-2. You expect that with Cassidy because he's a good coach. They're all good coaches, but I love it when a team gets up. Pretty good.
But your whole thing was you put the lines together right at the beginning of training camp.
I did.
And you didn't shuffle the lines. You put the defense pair together. And your big thing was because the Bruins, you always came out strong.
Yeah, we always come out flying.
The thing is, Dad, you said earlier that we were talking was that you geared the whole season for the playoffs.
I did, and I worked on the playoffs, and I used to. But the guys in Rochester never liked me.
The players or the manager?
The players, the manager. No, they didn't like me. The reason was I didn't give anybody a chance. I had to give Dwight Foster a chance. I had to give Dougie Hellward a chance because they were the number one draft choices. But I would never give the rest of the guys a chance because if I would get a guy get hurt, I wouldn't play. I'd play short. You don't need 4 lines anyhow. And Harry said if you get down to 2 and you don't bring up anybody, you're going to have to bring up somebody. But they never liked me in Rochester, and they were our farm team.
Yeah, because as you say, you knew what your team was at the beginning of the year, and you right from day one you set the training camp. And when the Bruins would slump, it always seemed to be in the middle of the season.
We were in first spot all the time and come out flying, and the other team we went into depression, and I know what Bruce Boudreau is going through. You think of a million ways to try to take them out, and it never happens.
So what did you do when your team was in
I
the
can't
slump?
remember what I did but
you were saying a lot of times like last night Vancouver was in Toronto. They were up 2-0. The little ticky-tack penalty. Toronto gets a power play goal.
Aren't they brutal penalties?
They come back, and then Vancouver hits 2 goal posts. But you said a lot of times when you're in that, it's just everything that could go wrong goes wrong.
Everything that goes wrong, the goalies can't stop a puck, and the guys can't check. The guy can't, and it would all come when we have a real good start. They get into bad habits, and you couldn't correct them because you win 7-3. Well, how are you going to give them bad habits?
But I remember you always telling me that you had to be very careful about talking about the players when they're losing. Yeah,
you never chastised them, did you?
I think that Terry O'Reilly said it best. He said when we were winning, he was hard on us then, and when we were losing, and in a thing, he was almost what was he, effeminate, like our mother. And he said he would never give us heck when we were losing. Boy, I wanted to give them heck, but
yeah, because I remember you saying, he goes, they were trying just as hard, if not harder.
They were harder.
Losing.
That was the problem. That's what's happened with Vancouver. When they were up 2-0, I knew what was going to happen. If I had been a bet, but talk about betting. Can I mention?
Yeah, we won't mention the betting site, but Austin Matthews is representing a betting site. He was on the front of the Toronto Sun the other day.
Front page.
Can I ask a question, Tim, Dad? Am I the only person that sees the problem in a player that's playing the game now representing a gaming site?
Yeah,
I just don't see. I can't see
No,
that
was
being
that-
legal.
Well, I could think Bettman wouldn't be happy with that because you can go on like spreads.ca. You can go on, and it's the betting site that Matthews is promoting. You can go on and bet if he's going to score or not. You know what I mean? And that's just
There's something not quite right.
no.
And has it ever been
Anyhow,
brought? Has it
let's
ever
get with
been?
spread. That's the best one.
Yeah, but we'll talk about spreads. But so we all know Matthews, he's doing that other sports site, but we want to thank our sports site, spreads.ca. They're a Canadian-owned online casino and sportsbook. And if you sign up now and use the promo GRAPES, they'll match your deposit up to $500. You get 10 spins on the big wheel for some big dough. And on your first sports bet, they'll spot you $25. So, but Matthews, though, he used to be one of the sharpest dressed guys in the league.
And
Him
Marner used to come in
How
together.
about that picture on the cover of the Sun?
Just like people going to look at it. First of all, I thought he looked like Phil Kessel, but
Well, why do you say keep
I
saying?
kind of know because he looks. First of all, he looks like he's really out of shape.
Kessel.
I think he's rebelling. I don't know how old he is, but in all this, but I think he's still rebelling against.
Good-looking
his
guy,
parents.
and
Just when you look at him, and he looks awful. And then you turn the cover, and there's George St. Pierre with a clean shaved head, nice
Yeah.
tight t-shirt,
he's done that too.
t-shirt on.
Anyhow, that was.
But
I
anyway,
just don't understand
well,
Matthews.
as long as he scores goals, right? Who
Yeah,
cares?
as long as he scores goals, he's playing pretty good too.
I did a quick, just one more thing I want to mention that back in Vegas, Jack Eichel gets the hat trick in Buffalo.
Oh yeah.
And he acted pretty good. He
Well, he went to the crowd, with the
a little bit. But we were saying, we'll never know what that situation was. That's got to be one of the
that's a funny-
strangest situations, and nobody in the media. And basically, the problem was he had a vertebrae that was bothering him in his neck, and he wanted a replacement surgery.
I forget what it was.
Oh, yeah, it was a replacement surgery for a vertebrae in his neck, and then
Club.
and then Buffalo wanted another type of surgery.
Yeah.
And that they couldn't come to an agreement of how to do this, and that's why they got traded. Now that was the story that was out there, unless there was more to the story.
There's got to be more to the story.
It's weird how, like I said, it's almost like the whole Ted Nolan thing. When Ted Nolan with Buffalo
I
was,
remember Ted Nolan.
I mean, he was coach of the year, and the fans loved him, and
The owner's wife.
yes, they fired him, and the owner's wife was outside with the fans protesting that he got
had a
fired.
sign.
But we never knew what happened there.
No, he was pretty good. He was good looking now, but you should have seen him when he was coaching. I remember I had a meeting with him. I coached the Mississauga Ice Dogs. I remember I had a meeting with him, and he had his hair was really long then. He really had long hair, and I think he was smoking too at the time. It's mint. That's what he was smoking, mint cigarettes or something. And boy, he had a black turtleneck on. God, he looked like
The one that, like, I saw an interview with that. He said the one thing that really upset him was they said he showed up to the rink drunk. And
No, he never-
that we know that never happened. That was the rumor going out, and he was upset because one of his family members died of consumption.
Yeah, he
and was upset, but that didn't happen. Something. Yeah, I don't think he get along with management or has.
I think he was like me. He couldn't get along with management, and
That's probably it because he never got another job.
never got another job. And he was coach of the year, and
And that was like you. You went to war with Harry and Ray Muron, and that was it.
that was it for me. Anyhow, what were
We're
we
just talking about surprises, and Eichel got the hat trick and all that. But yeah, it's kind of upside down. St. Louis is struggling, Vancouver's struggling. You know,
Yeah, all the good teams.
you know what the common denominator is, Dad?
What?
All the good teams have good goalies, and all the struggling teams' goalies aren't good.
And that's going to be till the end of day. But I have to say something about the penalties now. Holy smoke! You see the players protesting, going to the thing. They can't believe it. When you see a referee blow the whistle, everybody looks. Who's getting it?
And you just knew last night when Toronto got that power play on that chintzy penalty, and they scored. You almost could see the wind go out of out of Vancouver's sails.
Yeah.
And they got 3 goals in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, and then anyhow, I'm watching television the other night, and just before I go to bed, about 1:00 in the morning, they had Peter McNab. And I said, in memory of Peter McNab. And then they had a picture of him and I.
And you hadn't known that he passed.
I didn't know. I said, holy smokes. I remember when he was in Colorado, he was a great. He was a star. He
was an analysis for
and he was good, and he always had a smile on his face.
Yeah,
and so he really loved Peter Forsberg.
Yeah.
I mean, he really, he thought he was the greatest player, and I'm just kidding him. I just said, that Forsberg, he's overrated. Holy smokes. He had tears in his eyes thinking back. I thought you knew something about hockey. Great.
He was a passionate guy. The funny thing is that like everybody talked about Peter as an analysis guy, like a color guy and all that.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, then Colorado, because he was there since like 30 years.
Yeah,
they said.
he was there a long time.
Was he controversial or did he pretty
No,
well?
he was just good.
He was
You know,
just good.
Peter's always laughing and joking.
Yeah,
right?
he would be entertaining.
He was always. He played for you in Boston for 3 years, right? And he was traded for Andy Savard. In the 3 years, he got 114 goals, 246 points. And he was tied in 77, 78. He was tied for 7th in the league in goals. I wish some people would have said he was a big-time goal scorer back then.
Yeah, and nobody knew it.
Nobody
because
knows it. Like he was, 143
43 goals
in 3 years.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I remember one time we were all getting off and I was the last guy off the plane, and that big thick book, really a big thick book, must have cost a lot of money. What did he call those guys?
Back then, remember the Hare Krishnas used to walk the airports.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and he must have forgot his book. So I had a meeting with the guys, and waiting for our bags. And I said, on behalf of the Hare Krishna, they know how you your life. I said, here's the book, and he went along with it.
Yeah, he was always funny because he was into transcendental meditation.
Yes.
Yeah, like he was kind
He
of
was before his time.
He definitely was before his
Absolutely.
time. I think he fooled around with being a vegetarian.
Yep.
I don't think he told you that because.
No, that'd
and
be-
then you always said Peter McNab is my golden retriever.
He's a golden retriever on a team of pit bulls.
Yeah, I remember one time. I seemed to be talking about when I was in the losing all the time. I remember Harry flew out to Colorado, and I found out the night before, so I was prepared. So I got a room for him. It was just a little room, and they were all sitting on the bed.
Because you guys are on a big losing streak, eh? in
Oh,
Boston?
weird.
Wow, for the GM to fly out when you're on a losing
Yeah,
streak,
and
that's
with
a
Tom
pretty
Johnson, two of them.
boy.
Yeah,
oh,
and
I'm gonna give it to you.
And I said, okay, everybody in the room. And Harry comes in, and I remember he had a light blue shirt on. And he started to sweat when he was talking, eh?
Oh, so you could see the skins.
Yeah, you could see.
Oh, geez.
And he's giving it to, it's just going on. So I, at the end, when a guy is winding down, the coach always says, okay, guys, let's go and we get him tonight or something like that.
Yeah, so he's expecting you to bail him out at the
Yeah,
end and stop.
I didn't. I just let him go right till the very end. So he's got to say something as he's leaving. And Peter's really paying attention to him.
Of all the guys that would really be hanging on to all his words, I can't see
Peter.
Cash.
I think he was paying it. And he looked at Peter and he said, you haven't changed. Your checking hasn't changed in one iota. Well, we call him iota for about...
You said Peter just about fell off the bed.
So anyhow...
Iota.
We were shocked because of all the guys Peter, and he fell back in the bed. He said, I remember him going like that. Why me? Why me?
I can see him.
The one thing I remember about Peter was he was big. He was 6'3", eh? He was a big guy.
Yeah.
And I remember I was before the game, before the practice, I was out skating. And remember we told people that I used to get Ricky Middleton's stick.
Yeah.
And Dad's mentality was, well, I was maybe about 11. The stick for a grown man, it shouldn't be for an 11-year-old. So you used to shave my stick down quite a bit.
Thin it up.
And used to take a long time doing it, get a rasp and shave it down. So I was out skating and Peter came out. He says, okay, Tim, let's see you take a slap shot. And I said, well, I don't know how to take a slap shot. He says, you don't know? Yeah. He goes, how are you going to make the National Hockey League if you don't know how to take a slap shot? So he's showing me how to take a slap shot. And you for some reason, you came out early. And you were mad. I could tell skating over. We go, what are you doing, Peter? He goes, well, Tim doesn't know how to take a slap shot. And Dad, you go, well, I don't want him to take a slap shot. He says, he's got to learn how to handle the puck and shoot a wrist shot. I don't want him. He says, Peter goes, well, how's he going to make the National Hockey League And he goes, when he gets older, any dummy can slap a puck. He says, I want you to. So you guys got to a big argument about whether I should learn how to take a slap shot. So Peter said, Tim, take a slap shot. And I took a slap shot. My stick snapped right in two. And Peter goes, all right, I'm not saying anything more. I'm not saying anything more. And he would go. But then afterwards, like I would go on, and Craig Cheevers and Robbie Cheevers, the son, Scott Cashman, we'd go on the ice to skate. But we always knew, stay away at center ice after practice, because him and Terry O'Reilly would play keep away. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, you'd have to tell a new guy, after practice, stay away from the center ice, because they'd play keep away in the center ice, both of them. And they were big guys, 6'3", and Terry
Well,
O'Reilly.
that's how I would think fights might start, because you said...
No, we just kept away from them.
Mm-hmm.
And, nobody wanted to fight Terry. And it was unbelievable. If you skated near in center ice and you weren't paying attention, you could get hurt.
They just bowl right over you. Hey, well, I think Terry and Peter were best of friends.
They were the best of friends. And I remember when I used to start. I'd start. Peter was 6'3". Terry was about 6'2", and Winsink, and he was about 6'1". And I used to start everybody that was big, and then I start Milbury, which was 6'1", and then I put Park on, who was a superstar. Not a bad.
That's pretty intimidating.
Yeah. So I used to start those guys all the time, and you look out on the ice because you fool around. Here's these great big guys and Park.
So you started them, but I remember one game in the playoffs against Montreal.
Oh.
Yeah, Scotty did it. Scotty Bowman. The first line. The first line he used to put on. Steve Shutt had 50-some goals.
He had 60.
Yeah, 60 goals. Yeah, 60 goals. That's not too bad. Gee. And Lemaire had about 35, and Lafleur on the other side had 52.
50.
Jeez. You look out on the ice, and when you start those guys, you'd say, well, why even play the game? But
yeah, so it was I guess it was game 4 in the it was the finals, the second time you met the finals. And he put out all his, you had...
I just had regular lines out, and he said, I'm going to show you, Scotty said, I'm going to show this guy that I've got a tougher team. And
he put out Lupien, Robinson, Rydesborough, Bouchard, and then I think Savard was on the ice at the time. So, and you had Peter, Wensink, and Terry, which was your normal line.
And Wensink.
Yeah, Peter and Wensink. And so what did you do? You took...
I said, I see what he's doing. So I sent out Stan Jonathan to play center. And Peter McNab said, it was the happiest moment of my life, he says, when I saw it.
Because he knew trouble was coming.
He knew trouble was coming.
That must have been a sight to see, though, because Stan was a lot shorter than any of them.
About 5'9".
Yeah, but he was 5'9" wide. And
that was the infamous Bouchard-Jonathan fight right after that. And Lupien and Wensink fought.
Yeah, and it went on and on and on. I think it was about a half hour.
So what do you remember about Peter, Cindy?
What I remember is that when they used to come over, his wife was Diane, and she was a really good tennis player. And
she was
like an athlete.
She was, and she used to give me tennis lessons. But anyway, they used to come over to play tennis. We had tennis courts in the back, and it was Terry O'Reilly and his wife, and Diane and Peter.
What was her name?
Lourdes, right? And,
she's beautiful.
She was beautiful, but unfortunately, she didn't know how to play tennis. And of course, Diane and Peter, they didn't let up. And Peter used to get so upset.
No, Peter used to tease Terry.
Yeah, well, you can imagine
and he's not a guy to tease.
Yeah, he doesn't take teasing well. And then, so what does he do? He starts yelling at Lourdes.
So Mom come down and said, "That's it. No more wives and husbands can play together because you guys just can't have a nice game."
Everybody used to come over and play on that tennis court. Yeah. It was the most beautiful tennis court. It was all surrounded by...
Well, yeah, you used to have all the Bruins, like a lot of the Bruins used to come over.
Yeah, they used to all come over and play tennis.
Then I remember that Peter came over. We had a big pool, and he would swim laps in the pool. Yeah. But our pool was really warm because remember the sun used to hit it from morning till night.
It wasn't warm, yeah.
And he was always teasing you and I that the water was so warm because you and I couldn't like the cold. So so Blue was our Bull Terrier. Blue was just kind of sitting there watching what's going on. She was sitting underneath the table, and she didn't like water running for whatever reason. And remember, on the opening of Coach's Corner, you see her barking. That's when we had water running.
Yeah.
So Peter was doing laps. So Peter got out of the pool being a wise guy saying, I got to cool myself down because it's so hot. You guys have the water so hot. So he turned on the hose.
I never swam or anything.
And turned on the hose and we yelled, Peter, drop the hose. And he's white. And Blue, like the table went flying and Blue just come roaring at him, just barking. And he dropped it just in the last minute. Peter dropped the hose and Blue grabbed the hose. Well, Peter had to go sit down. He was in a cold sweat. And Dad goes, "Oh, that would have been nice. My 40 goal score is out because my dog bit him."
Harry would have been happy about that one.
Well, you and his wife Diane, you guys got into it a couple of times.
Oh, well, I used to kid her all the time, and she used to get mad all the time.
Peter, you could kid, and he would do it. You'd kid Diane, she'd get mad.
Yeah, she'd get mad.
But she could give it to you pretty good.
Yeah, I heard. One time she hit me. One time we were going to Philly, and we beat Philly in Philly.
Twice in the playoffs.
In the playoffs, and we were walking off, and she said that was a great game. There were great games down there. I said, yeah, I coached them again, and she hit me over the head with the purse.
How many nowadays would a player's wife hit a coach?
I thought it was funny.
You thought it was funny, but didn't you and her get into it about a line being cutting kids?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I ever got.
I think she was a coach. Like she was for a prep school, like either a tennis or a ski coach or something like that. And she said to you, "Oh, the hardest thing was cutting the guys off the team." And you said, "Oh yeah, it's really hard to cut them." And then she said,
"Yeah." And she said, "Well," I said, "How did you cut them?" And she said, "I used to put the list on the board, and if your name wasn't on the board, it wasn't on the list, then you didn't play." I said, "Oh, that's chicken shit. The way to do. You got to go up to them and look them in the eye and say, you're going down. You're just going down." I remember one time I did that with Dougie Gibson. He scored 2 goals, and I had to go up and practice. And he thought 2 goals, and I remember I had to go up and tell him, "Oh, I didn't." That was the hardest I've ever tell a guy after he scored 2 goals. Anyhow,
yeah. So she kind of argued with you, and you guys kind of got into an argument. And Peter just loved it. He just stood back loving it.
Wasn't there a time afterwards when they let you go with Bruins that you were helping one of them move or something?
No, I was there. I wasn't helping them. I guess
you
I
were
wasn't
supervising or what?
I don't know what I was doing, but I told them they were moving.
You were at Terry's place, Terry Riley's, and he was
moved to a new place called Cherry Lane.
Right. So he had a regular fridge up on the second floor of his garage. Where I used to do the stained glass. Remember, Terry used to do stained glass. And so go on. So
I told him, I said, you better, I would empty that fridge first. I would not move the fridge. And they said, "You're not our coach anymore." Peter said, "You're not our coach anymore. You can't tell us what to do." Okay. So when they moved the fridge, they'd put the door open, and the door come open, and the stuff went all over the garage. Right again.
Oh, that must have been a sight. So, Dad, I know you called Peter a golden retriever, but did he ever get in a fight?
He got in 2. He got in a fight with he would never fight guys that are smaller than him. And I remember one time we were playing in Cleveland, I think it was, and there was a fight at the end of the period. And I said, "Who the heck's fighting?" I'm looking around and he says, "Peter." I said, "Peter." He was always like, and I listened to an interview he had. He was the first guy I ever heard, and the guy asked him in Boston, I forget what we were down there for. Oh, I know, 11, 20 goal scores. And he says, that was big boy hockey. That was the first time I ever heard that. Yeah. And it was big boy hockey. When I see the penalties now, I just make my head.
Yeah, but Peter, like everybody, like I say though, that
he was always laughing.
He was always laughing. He was such a good guy, and it's kind of shocking to me because that's how I kind of remember Peter. He was 6'3", always laughing, always joking.
I mean,
well, it was tough the other night. When just before I went to bed, and they said, "Remember Peter McNab." I said, "Oh no!" And then they showed a picture of me. It was tough to see.